Well, are you ready to create generational wealth? Well, we have the man in the house that's going to teach you just that. My very special guest, got to put my clock on, is Pastor Dexter B. Jenkins. He is faith-based financial mentor and author. He has a new book out, which is what we're going to talk about. He has more than 2 decades of really working and serving in the financial service industry. He's really passionate about helping folk, helping families open up to how they can build generational wealth. He has inspired and instructed thousands of people. And he has a new book out entitled The Real Estate Wealth Creator Blueprint Keys to Overcome Fear, Lack of Money, and Inexperience to Possess the Land. We know that that's the will of God for all of us. So, Pastor Dexter, welcome back to the Law of Attraction Radio Network.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be back. We connected, probably a couple years ago, and I
Yeah.
followed you and what you've been doing online. So I see you still putting the work in. So I'm glad to be here with you and your tribe today.
Right. So let's just get to it. For such a time as this, I feel that your book is really quite timely because folk are asking themselves globally, how can
Yeah.
I bring in more money? How can I create wealth? What inspired you to write this book before I get to my myriad of questions?
I think it's always been my passion as an educator. So whether as a pastor or whether I was doing it, and like you mentioned in my bio, as a financial services professional, is how can I get the information that I know out to as many people as possible? And one of the ways to do that is this thing called a book. The late Dr. Miles Monroe said this. He said, "I believe everybody should write a book."
Oh, I
And
didn't know that.
he said,
Mhm.
"I believe everybody should write a book." And then another guy that I follow, his name is a guy by the name of Daniel Priestley, phenomenal business teacher
Hmm.
out of Britain, England. And he talks about the book that changes your life is not the book that you read, it's the book that you write. And so it's always been my job to disseminate information, and one of the best ways to do it is through a book.
I have so many questions for you. So we know that folk right now are really um, have a lot of anxiety around
Right.
money. Do I need to get my second job? Do I need to get my hustle on? So what role does God play in all of this, or faith and success? And
Yeah.
and, and how can that faith and those our belief systems really impact? We're going to be addressing real estate success.
Right. Well, I think going back to what you originally said, let's start with, I mean, because most of the people who listen to you are believers on some sort, on some
On
level.
some sort.
Yeah, some level, I'm of the Christian faith, but some who may listen to may not be, but many of us believe that there is a God and that the
Hmm.
God is the ultimate source, and that everything else that we tap into is a resource. So whether it's a job, whether it's a business, whether it's real estate, whether it's stocks, whether it's crypto, all of those are resources. And so I really believe that the first thing people really need to do to thrive in this area is keep your eye on God, first of all, recognizing that He is the source and that He will lead you and guide you into where you need to go so you can tap into the resource. So sometimes it's for people who follow me, most of them do real estate. Now, that might not be the only thing they do, but it's one of the things they do. And so I really believe that during this time, because there's just a lot of noise out here right now, and you can have your head turned to left and right. And what you've got to do during this season is center yourself on back on God, number one, and then number two, let Him lead you and guide you as to what you should put your hands to. And if you do that, you'll have success no matter who's in the White House, outhouse, state house, or whatever it may be.
That's so true because wealth is really inside. And so
Oh,
I
goodness.
heard, okay, when I said that, you said, go ahead, wealth is
Yeah,
on the
that
inside.
yeah, no, because that's one of the things. That's one of the things that's in my book. I always say that their wealth is an inside out thing. That the manifestation of wealth, anybody who has accumulated wealth, well, if you sit and listen to and talk to them, get their belief system, their thought process, you'll see that they're not wealthy because of the money. They're wealthy because they're wealthy on the inside. And so we have to do that work first. And then it shows up in a form of real estate, or stocks, bonds, businesses, and all that. And so I think a lot of times people don't want to do the work or are ignorant of the work that needs to be done on them on the inside. Because one of the things that I found, one of the biggest problems most people have is this, Constance. They're incongruent in their belief systems.
Ooh, go ahead and teach. That is so good.
Incongruent. So meaning this, I'm saying I want a lot of money, but then my words are saying something else. I'm always going to be broke. Black man can't get ahead. Such and such is in the White House. Or they'll read in the Bible, because that's where I'm at. Well, they'll see where a verse of scripture will say something that, you can't serve both God and money, but then they go to work every day. And so most people are very incongruent in their belief systems, their thought processes, and their words. And so one of the first things I try to really ground people in is this: what do you really believe about wealth? And then you have to do something, and you have to really examine and listen to a lot of the messages that you heard maybe growing up in your environment. Mama told you this, Big Mama, Pookie, them, Ray Ray. So we have all these things we're struggling. Or my pastor has gotten up and said, stay away from that money, and so people are very conflicted. Now, you know this. You've driven a car, whatever else. If your car is out of alignment, it's not going to go very fast. And so people are out of alignment. And so they'll work 10, 12 hours a day, but then say over here, money's not important. Like, well, which one is it? Because if it wasn't important, why are you working 10 to 12 hours? And so the first thing people got to do is you got to really examine what your beliefs are around money. What's your relationship with money? Now, you begin to look at some of those things. Now I can begin to take the next step, which is I got to go on the offensive as opposed to the defensive. Now, what does that mean? A lot of times, most of the traditional financial information has you playing defense. Save money, put a budget together, so on and so forth. Now, and now I'm not saying those things are not needed, but I've never met a wealthy person who has budgeted their way to wealth. I've never met a wealthy person who has saved their way to wealth. Everybody I know who's become wealthy has gotten wealthy because they've started businesses, they become an investor and some sort and so level. And so one of my main messages, you've got to get off the defensive side of handling your money, and you got to get on the offensive side. And then the last thing I talked to them about, Mr. Constance, is this. I talk about leverage. Most people don't have leverage. That's where real estate comes in at. Now, what's the leverage? Now, leverage is simply this: the ability to earn more money with less effort. Oh. and we all need to do that, because you can't work with so many hours. As a matter of fact, as you get older, you don't even work. You don't want to work that many hours. So you want money coming in for you without you having to physically go out there and do something for it. And so everybody understands leverage, but most of us. So meaning this, your bank understands leverage. Watch this. You bring your money into the bank, your deposit, yes, and they put it out: student loans, credit cards, card notes, mortgages. So they're making money off of money. Now, your employer understands leverage. What do you mean by that? Well, he has 10 or 12 people in your department, and everybody works 8 hours. So that means your corporation is benefiting from 80 hours worth of work if you have 8 to 10 people in your department. And so your landlord understands leverage. Okay, if you pay them rent, if they have a mortgage, most of your rent is paying either some or all their mortgage. And so a lot of people, I say this, people are leveraged, but they're not leveraging. And so these are some of the things that I talk about in my book, some of the things I talk about, just in people that I'm talking to, because I believe if we could get our belief systems right, we can go on the offensive when it comes to money, and we can learn how to create leverage for ourselves. Now you're cooking with grease.
Oh, that's so good. And those belief systems are so powerful because we really manifest through our belief systems.
100%. Well, think about this. And because this is, as I followed you, you talk a lot about manifestation and beliefs. I was talking to my wife last week, and we were talking about people who hit the lottery, and for big sums of money. And the thing we've always said, if a person gets a large sum of money and do not change their belief system, they will end up back where they were or even worse. Because if you get millions of dollars, watch this, Constance, you better become a millionaire on the inside.
So true.
Because if not, you're gonna lose it. You'll find a way to self-sabotage yourself on some level. Pookie then will come around. My cousin, because once you start getting money, everybody got cousins and aunties and
Right.
everybody start coming out the woodworks. And if you're not strong enough to know how to handle it, or you don't get people around you strong enough to say, to help you to deal with, I got a lump sum of $50 million. I got a lump sum. It doesn't have to be that big. It could be, I got a lump sum of $3 million. Well, you've never seen $3 million. So you never know that, number one, you got to pay tax on that money. You got to pay tax. So you're probably getting half of that. And then if you've never handled those type of dollars, you're going to end up losing it. And so it does come back to what we keep talking about and talking to your audience. We've got to become wealthy on the inside first. Before we manifest on the outside. We've got to surround ourselves with people who know more than we do and humble ourselves and learn some things. Believe me, I'm always in the student mode. I like to be in a room where they say something and I don't know what they're talking about, and I got to grab my phone and sort of be underneath the table like, what does that mean?
Absolutely.
because that means I'm growing, and so many of us need to put ourselves in environments like that where you are growing, because as you get in different environments, my message on Sunday was I was talking about associations. And I said, God is big on associations in the Old Testament, so much so where he would have the Israelites kill everybody that they were dealing with as enemies. And I was like, wow, Lord, I mean, you're going to kill babies and all that? And he said he would kill babies, women, kids, animals, because he knows about the power of association. You become who you associate with most. And even in finance, they talk about this. Your salary will be the average the average of the top 5 people you hang around. So if everybody makes you hang around and if everybody you run with makes 50 grand, guess what? You probably make around there. If everybody you run with makes $1 million, you probably make about $1 million. And so we really have to watch our association and have the courage to become wealthy. That's one of the points in my book too. I said it takes tremendous courage to become wealthy, because sometimes you may have to leave some people behind on your pathway to where you need to go.
Boy, so good. So let's talk about, I've heard, because I've interviewed so many people on wealth, and they say, well, if you invest in the stock market, that's one way, but real estate is another way that you can really become wealthy. So let's talk about, what are some mindset shifts for folk who are aspiring to become investors to achieve financial independence, especially when it comes to fear and can I really invest and purchase? Talk about that a little bit.
Well, I think I was just doing a podcast yesterday, and a lady asked me, what are some of the myths that
great question,
have around real estate investing? And one of the myths is that it takes a lot of money to do it. Well, my credit has to be perfect in order to do it. And I'm like, no, the first thing you got to do in order to be a real estate investor is decide you want to do it. Because your intentions dictate everything.
Good.
Right? So when I set my intention, believe me, it's like God begins. Some people say God, I say God. Some people say universe lines up for you. But it really starts with, I'm going to decide I'm going to do that. This is what I did back in 2016, 2017. I said, you know what? I mean, and I lived in a house and all that, but I wanted to take it to another level and be like an investor. I said, you know what? I'm going to become an investor. And once I set my intention, now, Constance, there's all type of resources just kept coming across my path. Now, those resources were there all the time. But because I set my intention of saying, this is what I wanted to do, now here come all the books, seminars, coaches, all that began to come my way. And so the first thing I tell people is this: you got to decide that you want to do it. Then you got to decide after that, you got to decide, get your education up, meaning this is something new for you. None of us were born knowing anything, right? You don't know math, English, or whatever else, or your career that you're doing right now. And so you're going to have to really get your education, decide, begin to maybe pay some mentors, go to some real estate investment groups. They got a whole bunch of them out there. I'm quite sure where you are in Atlanta, they got a bunch of them, because your market is extremely hot. You
Very.
know, yeah, extremely hot. And so what you got to do is get in there, and then you begin to say, okay, what type of investor do I want to become? So do I want to become a passive investor? Now, a passive investor is someone who doesn't want to fix and flip. They don't want to buy and hold. They have money and they give to someone like myself to invest it, or they want to actively do it. And so, you know, those are some of the basic steps that you do. But it goes back to the first thing I said, this, your decision and your intentions, that once you decide that you're going to do that, you'll do it. Now, you got to deal with the fear. That's one of the things in the book that, you know, I talk
Right.
about fear, because I believe what causes fear to dissipate are two things. Number one, more information.
Ah,
The more you learn about something, the less fearful it is, right? And then number two, having a community around you. You know, you know this. You know, I don't know what type of neighborhood you grew up in, but you know, if you had your homeboys or homegirls with you, you have more courage.
yeah.
You
Hey,
know,
I grew up in the country, but I get you. Uh-huh. Hmm.
it doesn't matter whether you in the country or whatever. You know, it's just that when your people with you, you got more courage, right? And so
Absolutely.
it's this thing of, if you can get yourself in the community, which is very easy to do, of trusted individuals, you know, you can actually, one of my mentors said this years ago, he said, Dexter, borrow my courage until you get your own.
Oh, 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 my goodness. My
Isn't that good?
goodness.
He said, yeah,
Ah,
he said, borrow my courage, borrow my confidence until you get your own. And so when you get in a community full of people, you can borrow their courage, you can borrow their confidence. I mean, you know this, Constance. Fear is contagious, just as faith is contagious. If you get around the wrong people and you start listening to them, and you were good before you start listening to them, and then they start talking about the sky's falling, this and that, and that. Next thing you know, you're like, oh my God, you're in fear too. And so I believe for people to overcome fear, the more they know about a subject, that fear dissipates. And then as they get around the right type of people who've been there, done that, got the t-shirt, bought the hat, who can coach them and mentor them through some things, they can borrow that person's confidence and borrow that person's courage.
oh, that is so good. When you were talking about intention, I thought of what Oprah Winfrey says. She says intention rules the world. And she is so right. God is very intentional.
Yes, he is.
And so what you said, when you get and they set that intention, the whole universe conspires. Hey, it's a conspiracy, y'all, but it's
No,
a conspiracy to help you.
it's a positive one. Because usually when we say something's conspiracy,
Absolutely.
it's somewhat a negative. But in this case, you know, it's really a conspiracy for God to bless you. You know,
Yeah.
but he's waiting on us to make the decision that we want to partake of what he's already laid out for. And a lot of times we're waiting on him and he's waiting on us.
Yeah, I love that. And I love how you understand that it's from the inside out. I have joined so many multi-level marketing things, Mary Kay, nothing
Yeah.
against Mary Kay, but my heart wasn't in it. And
Right.
so,
It
and my
wasn't you.
belief,
It wasn't you.
right, right. So a person has to really feel like this is what I'm supposed to do. Real estate is where it's at, and all of the above.
Correct. And that's why I say in my book, I want people to become what I call a real estate wealth creator. Actually, a wealth creator. Wealth creator is someone who, number one, who has decided that they're going to become wealthy. Because that's
Ah,
wealth has, you have to decide, I'm going to do this because, you know, going back to conspiring, the
okay.
world in many respects is conspiring against you to really be poor or middle class or upper middle class.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to decide, you know what? I want higher than that. I want to go higher than that. I want to become wealthy. Now, everybody will decide what wealth is for them. But whatever you decide wealth means to you, you got to decide you got to do that. And then I want you to use real estate on some level to do that. Now, it may not be the only thing you do, but I want it to be one of the things you use. So that's why I call people, if in my group, I talk to people about being a real estate wealth creator. I want you to decide you're going to become wealthy, number one. Then number two, use real estate on some level to help you get to that goal.
I love that. I love what Les Brown said. He said, everybody say money ain't important. He said, but it's right up there with oxygen.
What's oxygen?
Uh-huh.
100. I'm amen. Not that funny you said that because I was by the time this plays, it probably a little bit later, but this is earlier this week. A young lady got on
Hmm.
Facebook and said, money isn't important. And I'm like, and then as I listened to her talk, she began to say, well, we need it and all that type of stuff, but it's not the most important thing. She said, the most important thing, she said, it's not important. I'm like, well, if you were in a relationship with anybody and you told them they were not important to you, how long would they stay around?
They're not staying, they're gone. Goodbye. See ya.
Okay, but basically they're saying, why am I here? You know what I mean? And so I believe when we say to money that it's not important, no wonder you ain't got none, because you keep talking about it's not important. Now, I will say this, it's not the most important thing, but it runs through everything we do in life. If you're a Bible reader, you read Matthew chapter 6, Jesus talks to us about, don't worry about what you're going to eat, what you're going to drink, what your 𝗙𝗙𝗃𝗃𝗃, what you're going to drive, what you're going to wear. And he said, because your heavenly Father knows that you need them. Got it? So if God knows that you need them, that means it's important. So here we are. So God is saying it's important, but I'm over here saying it's not important. So go back to our original point. Our words, in many respects, the Bible talks about over 𝗦𝗲𝗃𝗃𝗃. He said, your words have been stout against me. Yeah. Death, Proverbs 18:21, death and life is in the power of your tongue. So now I'm speaking death over my finances, and then I'm wondering why I don't have any. Well, because you're saying money is not important. And so you back to one of our first original points is I got to get I got to get my inside right first. Then I could begin to, whether it's Mary Kay, real estate, I don't care what you do. You trading stocks, and I got people who trade. I know people do trade crypto. I don't know nothing about crypto, but I know people do that. Well, you'll find what fits your personality, because just like you said, Mary Kay wasn't for you. You weren't into it. Now the person who maybe brought you in, maybe had been it for them, but it wasn't for you. Everybody has to find their own path.
And so let's talk to people. In my mind, I already got some clients I'm going to refer to you because they're in real estate. So let's just say somebody makes a decision. I don't know a lot about real estate, but I got the money and I'm going to give it to Pastor Dexter to invest in it. So what are some different routes or steps that people can take to begin to move into investing in real estate?
Well, there are individuals like myself who, we vet different investments, and then we bring it to a group and say, hey, look, we have an investment that we're going to move on. We need about $50,000 or $25,000 or $2,000. It just depending on the type of investment. So that's one way. And then sometimes, there are things that they call REITs, real estate investment. The name escapes me right now, but it's more of a organized thing that you can do through some sort of stockbroker. So it just really depends on what your comfort level is, and how hands-on and how hands-off you want to be with the investment. And so usually if I'm talking about somebody investing money, my first thing is let's have a conversation and get a sense of what are your goals. And then if it's a fit, let's do something. If it's not, I'm not going to take your money. I'll tell you, I'll advise you to go some other place, because the best investment you have to, I always tell people, if you're going to invest money in anything, you have to be able to sleep at night, number one, and then number two, trust the person that you giving the money to.
Absolutely.
So if you don't trust them, keep your money in your pocket, And so those are some steps that I would recommend for people who are just starting in that. And then, anybody who is a real estate investor who raises money, they'll have contracts. What they'll do is a lot of times they'll have you send the money directly to their person as opposed to writing a check out to them. So there's certain safeguards that people take, so that if you invest the money with me, I would never say send me a check in Dexter B. Jenkins' name. I would never do that. You ain't sending me no money. I'd be like, I wire it over to my attorney over here. It's going to go in this particular fund, and it's going to be allocated to this particular investment. You can expect 10%, 9%, whatever the deal is. But I'm very leery of people who say, oh yeah, send the money to me, or send me the cash. No, we're not doing that. Like, nah,
we're not doing that.
No. And then constantly, I'll even say this, but in particular in the circles that we travel in, So whether you're in church or whatever your spiritual belief is, sometimes we let our guard down because of that. Well, she is my friend in church, and I met brother such and such, and I'm like, no, there still should be standard business practices that you follow, even if they're your brother in Christ or your sister in Christ. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
you want to make sure that you are still doing. I love you, but I'm still doing my due diligence to make sure that this is on the up and up.
Yeah, and like Pastor Dexter was saying, even with me, um, how do I say this? I'm only around people who are higher than me, who
Right.
can sharpen me, who can pour into me. And even when it comes to clients, just like you said, I'm very careful who I say yes to. And that's what it sounds like that you do. So the title of your book is The Real Estate Wealth Creator Blueprint. I love that word blueprint,
Yes,
because the
ma'am.
blueprint tells you exactly the house is on one level, it's a townhouse. So what are some of the a blueprint will give you accuracy and success. So what
Correct.
are some blueprint secrets in your book that you can share with listeners?
Yeah, and we've talked about some of
I know
them.
we have.
We've talked about some. I think I like to talk to people about getting started. So we
Oh,
talked
good.
on one side. We talked about on one side if a person wants to be a passive investor
Mm-hmm.
versus an active investor. So a passive investor we talked about. So if a person, hey, look, I got some money, I'll have no time to do whatever, or nor do they have the inclination. They're just not interested in it, but they have some money that's sitting maybe in
Mm-hmm.
a retirement account, or maybe they got some money sitting in the bank that's not getting high interest, or maybe they got a lot of equity in their home that they want to tap into. So that's on the passive side. But then on the active side, someone says, hey, look, I've been watching HGTV, I've been thinking about doing that. you know, and,
Yeah.
or whatever the show is, the A&E, they got a bunch of them out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you begin to get a sense of, back to what we talked about earlier, education, and then deciding maybe what strategy you want to use. So do you want to be a buy and hold investor, which means that you buy a piece of property, rent out, and get rent off it every month? Or do
Mm-hmm.
you want to fix and flip, meaning that you buy a piece of property that needs some love, as I like to say, and then you fix it up and you put it back on the market? And so, or do you want to get involved in what they call wholesaling? So there are just a number of strategies. So what I lead people through is really helping them getting a sense of what strategy that they want to use up front. Now you can always change your mind, because sometimes you try something, you're like, you know what, I don't like this. And
Yeah.
that's fine, so you're not stuck there, but it allows you to get in the game and get a sense of what you would like to do. And so that's where I like to start people at. But then also, Constance, I believe most people, one of the best ways for people to get started as a real estate investor is in something that they call house hacking. Now, house hacking. Now that's the official name for it, but we've been doing it for years. Meaning that you buy a piece of property and maybe you live in one unit and rent out the other one, or
Mm-hmm.
you have a house that had 4 bedrooms. You sleep in one and rent 2 or 3 out to your girlfriend. That's house hacking. And so what you're able to do is you're able to um, allow someone to pay your biggest expense you have most of the time. Well, your second biggest tax is your biggest. Your second biggest expense financially is your housing, right? So if they're paying your either your mortgage, or you're paying some of your mortgage, or a lot of your mortgage, or rent, or whatever it may be, it allows you to take those other dollars and put it in other places.
Ooh, that's so good. And I love that you said get started, because a lot of people, I'm praying, I'm believing, I'm going to seminars, I'm reading. Okay, let's get in the race.
Well, because the year 2023, my model for that year, and I got a whole chapter on how to get started in the book,
Mm-hmm.
was the year of getting started. That was my whole model
Ah,
for the year. So whether it was, so I talked to my church about it. Every person who had me come on their podcast and talk, that was my theme, because the Lord revealed to me. He said, Dexter, he said this: every achievement you've ever achieved, whether it's been athletically, whether it's been in ministry, whether it's been in business, whether it's been your family, is because of one thing: you got
mm.
started.
Ooh, ooh.
And to your point, many of us we don't get started. I've been thinking about, I've been praying. I'm, you know, if you're from the South, I've been fixing, I've been finna, I'm finna get started. And so we have all of the finna, fix, I'm about to, and we never get out the gate. And because I believe one of the biggest reasons we don't is because we psych ourselves out, and then when we begin to think about, where's the money going to come from? Where's this going to come from? And you psych yourself out, and it's just like, no, if you just take the first step, what I found is that God will meet me at my first step, and then here come the second step and the third step. And so it's just a matter of you getting in motion. And when you get in motion, one of my mentors says this he's a mentor from afar. He says, you don't need finishing grace at the end, I mean, at the beginning.
Wow.
When you get to the end, you'll get the finishing grade. But in the beginning, you need to get out the gate. And so you learn as you go. And I think many people, they just never, whatever it is, whether it's real estate investing or starting a business or side hustle, whatever it is, we never get started. And so one of my big messages in that book, but also just in life, man, get started. Whatever you can, I don't care how, it could be a small step. I don't care how big the step is. Just take something, and what you will do as you take the step, you will learn something that will empower you to go to the next step.
So good. That is so true in life. You know, you got to get in the game.
You got to get in the game. Get in the game. You think about the things that you've accomplished and I've accomplished, and people even listen to us. You graduated from college because you went to the first day of class. And then the second day of class, and you just kept doing it over and over again. Next thing you know, you turn the task from left to right or right to left, depending on what you're doing. And so I think people underestimate the power of getting started.
That's good. That's good.
There is tremendous power in getting started, and people underestimate that.
You know, I was listening back because this is my 16th year as a podcast. I told somebody I was a podcaster before podcasting. I didn't what it was called. So I went back and just listened to my first show. Sound quality, not good, but I got started. I was I was used to accustomed to speaking on platforms. You know, it's different when you on you know, doing a podcast. And so, but like you said, I got started. And then I went to listen to, you know, years, you know, maybe year 5, year 10. And I had Jack Canfield said something to me. I'm not bragging, it's just the truth. He said, you were one of the best you're the best interviewer, one of the best interviewers that's ever interviewed me. And I thought about, had I not got started with all of my and ooh and and everything that I was doing and the terrible sound quality, I would not be here. So I love that God gave you that.
Yeah, it's it's funny you said it, because I went back and listened to some of my old messages. I'm like, Dexter, woo, that was horrible. I'm like, who was that? I'm like, turn that mess off, you know. But at the time, that's where I was, and so it's just a matter of, you know, and that's a message to anyone who's listening to. So whether you're doing what I do and Constance does, you know, you get started. Believe me, that before we got started, you said this is your 800 something.
Oh, I've had over 850 archive podcasts.
Okay. Yeah, so 850
my God.
episodes later, you're still in the game. Well, to your point, one wasn't that good, but as you continue to do it, now you're at 850. Now, if you keep going, 2000 episode will be better than the 850, you know.
Absolutely.
And so it's just I believe we need to take it's from God, but it's also a success key. Think about some of the largest corporations. What they do is they put out a product, right? And then what they keep doing, they keep tweaking it. Here's an upgrade. Here's an upgrade. Here's this. Here's that. You know, just like, okay, you're always doing, like my computers and iPhone. Okay, you got an iPhone, whatever phone you got. They always doing upgrades. Yeah, they're always doing upgrades and tweaks. Why? Because they recognize, listen, you will this is where most people got to be delivered from, Constance. Perfectionism.
Oh.
Because you will never have everything perfect in the beginning. What you got to do is, and this is just my personal, if I get it 75% of where I want it to go, I put it out there because I recognize that as I put it out there, and then people begin to critique me and say, "Hey, have you thought about this?" And now they'll help me make it better. But if you're trying to wait till everything is perfect, you'll never move.
That is so true. And you also talk, I gotta have y'all, I'm having them back for part two. Because it's so much.
Too much,
So
too much.
you talk about steps to ensure financial security for future generations, generational wealth. A lot of
Yes,
people talk about that. So how can people use real estate to begin to
right.
build generational wealth?
Well, let me use my father as an example.
Okay.
My dad was a barber in the state of Connecticut, New Haven, Connecticut, for over 60 years. Uh,
Wow.
and then when he died, he left my wife and I, my kids, two pieces of property, completely paid off. So they're probably worth about $800,000. So here I am as this recording. I'm 56 years old, 57 in a couple months. So I just inherited that, did
Mm,
nothing for it. So, and people who are believe like you and I believe, God is a God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
so
He's a
true.
he's a multi-generational God. So here it is. My father, Samuel Jenkins, passes it down to Dexter Jenkins. Dexter Jenkins has three kids, Cameron, Sydney, and Danielle. So they will inherit either those properties or whatever I decide to do to portfolio. They'll inherit what I leave behind. And so I just believe real estate is it's not the only way, but it's one of the best ways that you can have this multi-generational type of wealth being passed down because it's tangible, and so and that's what many of our ancestors did, particularly in the South. They believed in buying land and buying property and keeping it up, and so that they could pass it down to that next generation to work it. And so I'm going back to our original point. It's not the only way of doing it, but I believe real estate is one of the best ways that you can leave an inheritance for your children's children.
Well, my father, who only went to like the probably the ninth or 10th grade,
Okay.
we still have land in Tennessee that my brother lives on.
Right.
My father was what they call his title was a common laborer. That was his
Okay.
title.
Right.
So when he made his transition, he left my mother very wealthy.
Right.
And I'm like, how in the world did he do? Now, of course, when you don't have any bills and you own your own land, that's wealth. And my brother still lives on that property
Okay.
that we own.
Right.
And so you're so right. And I love your title when you said, and to possess the land. It's
Yeah.
something about ownership that's powerful. Wouldn't you say so?
Oh, 100%. My dad taught me that years ago. He said, Dexter, he didn't say it like that, but this is how I heard it. He said, Dexter, you need to control and own two places, where you live and where you work.
Mm, that's
So,
good.
I grew up in a house we owned, and then his barbershop, he ran his barbershop out of one level, but then above that he had two apartment units, and then he had four garages off it.
Uh,
So the apartments as well as the garages was subsidizing his business. And so ownership is everything. And so I believe that one of the things that's missing in our generation, you know what, it is an ownership mentality, meaning
yeah.
we're not owning things that appreciate in value and was not and that is not producing cash flow for us. So you talk about your dad, didn't have much what they call formal education, but he probably was wise because my old folks back then, they had tremendous wisdom, but
Yeah.
he had the foresight to say, you know what, let me buy some land because if I have some land, I have some ownership now, I just got to find a way to monetize it. And so that's one of the things that I'm one of my big messages, because there are a lot of people that I've talked to that there are people who have left them thing, but they don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, that's so good.
Or they're afraid to do something with it, or there's infighting in the family. There's all, if you got multiple siblings, sometimes it's a problem, and so I just think it's one of the most valuable tools that people can use to your original question, to be able to have this multi-generational wealth passed down, meaning this, because the goal of multi-generational wealth is not land and money for money and land's sake. It's, watch this, Constance, it's so that the next generation doesn't have to start over.
Absolutely.
Because
that's so good.
Yeah, that's what it is, because what they should be doing is building off of our foundation. You know what I mean? And so that's why you want to leave the wealth behind, not, because I heard people say, well, I don't want to leave money behind for my kid. I struggled and let them struggle. Well, that's stupid. See, that's I would say something else, but we're on camera. That's stupid. That's stupid thinking.
So true.
I mean, the people should be able to build off of what, my kids should build off what my dad left and what I left, and they should build up that. Now what we got to do is make sure they're not materialistic. We got to have them have God in their life, so we got to put the morals and values in them. I agree with that. But, every generation shouldn't be starting over.
So good. So lastly, tell us a really quick success story in real estate. What comes to your mind? It could be either your own or maybe somebody that you coached or helped. That really.
I would tell you probably one of our most proudest moments is we have a woman in our actually she's in our church, and she's over our music ministry, and so she's always talking about. She called me. They call me PD. She said, PD, I've always wanted to own real estate, and she said, and if it wasn't for you taking me by my hand and walking me through what to do, and watch this, like as we talked about earlier. Let me borrow your confidence and your courage and your connections, because that's what you get. You get I can make a phone. Hey, look, can you go over this house and do whatever else? Because I built a network and continue to expand it. And so when she says I would have never done this, she's a widow where her husband died maybe about 10, 12 years ago. She has 2 adult children. But she said if it wasn't for you, I would have never done this. Now she said I've been thinking about doing it for years, always wanted to do it. So she bought her first property. Now we're on our way to helping her get her second and third. But I was like, man, it really, I mean, it's always good when you get your own stuff, but when you help somebody else do it, really an eye opener. You're like, wow, this stuff is working. You know what I mean? And so that's probably one thing that we're most proud about.
Wow. I can't believe the time is already gone.
45 minutes already?
And so I know you got a big wealth summit coming up. How can people get your book? What is your website information? Yes. How can they contact you? Are you coaching folk? Are you speaking? What's your social media tags? You got to remember all of that, Pastor. So go ahead.
Okay. I'm doing everything you talked about. So to reach me generically, or reach me, they go to my website, dexterbjenkins.com. dexterbjenkins.com. You can find everything you need there. Then also social media, I'm Dexter B. Jenkins across everything. So Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. LinkedIn is probably my favorite. I'm Dexter B. Jenkins. And then my book is www.wealthcreatorblueprint.com. They can get a copy there. And then the last thing you asked me is my summit coming up April 5th. And so that's in Boston, Massachusetts. And they can go to and matter of fact, I'll send you all these links so that you can put them in.
Right, absolutely.
REWealthCreationSummit.com. And then we also have we have a virtual aspect to it too. So just in case you can't get to Boston, but you do want to partake of it. So I'll make sure I get you all those links so that, if somebody obviously can't make it to Boston, at least they can. I think the virtual ticket is $97 for 2 days. So it's fairly inexpensive, but it's not like being here, but it's like being here, and so we want to help people get that information.
I may come fly in because I've been to Boston. Why did I fly into Boston? I think I was going on a cruise or something, but I've never spent time in Boston.
Come join us April 4th and 5th, man.
Yeah.
It'll be a
So
good
that would be
time.
great. So
Yeah.
this has been so wonderful, so powerful. And so what would be your last word from the Spirit to people who are listening? What would you say to folk who are listening?
I think we've said a whole bunch.
Yeah,
I
one word.
think I think I want to go back to what we left. One of the major things: get started. It ain't one
Oh,
word,
yeah.
two words. Get started, because as you get started, I believe God or whatever you use, universe will get in line with what you're trying to do.
So powerful. Everybody, as you listen to this over and over again, uh, all of the places where you can reach Pastor Dexter. They're going to be included in the description. Share this on your timeline. Share this with your coworkers. All of y'all in the federal government who are anxious, this may be an open door for you. Open up to the unlimited possibilities that God has for you. Share this on your social media platforms, like I said. Listen to it over and over and over again. I want you to like, follow, and share on Pastor Dexter's social media platforms. I got that and on mine, so that we can really touch the world with this.
Yes.
And Pastor Dexter, if you send me your information, I will certainly put it on my own
Okay.
platforms,
I sure
prior
will.
to. So everybody, as I say every week, you are the designer, creator, editor, script writer, and producer of your own day, of your own life. Make a decision, like Pastor Dexter said, to get started and create your best life ever. Have a great week, everybody.